Prime Minister Narendra Modi has set the target for India to become a developed nation by 2047. And the agricultural sector has a huge role to play in India becoming a developed nation by 2047. To get more insights on agricultural sector and the reforms and how is it going to pan out going forward, we are joined in by a very special guest, Mr. Professor Ramesh Chand, who is a member of a NITI Aayog who looks after all the agricultural related policy and the rural economy. Thank you, sir, for joining us and speaking to Republic Business and Republic Media Network. Sir, let me start off by asking you a first important question. We know the share of agricultural GVA to the total GDP is declining, right? And is it alarming, like it's declining or like gradually? Is it a cause of a worry for you?
Not at all. You see, it is a natural process. When per capita income increase, when any economy develops, the demand for non-food and non-agriculture commodities rises at a faster rate than demand for food and agri commodity. That is what is reflected in the growth rate of value added. If this share is declining, when agriculture is having decent growth, it is a good thing for agriculture, it is good thing for farmers, it is good thing for consumer, good thing for the economy. But if share is declining because of very poor growth in agriculture GVA or negative growth in agriculture GVA, then it is a matter of very, very serious concern. So, but you observe in almost all country except with some exception is that this share declines when the agriculture is having decent growth rate. It has very simple interpretation that it is relative growth of agriculture which is lower than growth of non-agriculture. That is what make share of agriculture in gross value added smaller and smaller. So, it should not be a cause of concern as long as the growth rate in agriculture sector is decent, it is satisfactory, it is not below some level.
And basically you are trying to say when the growth rate goes into the negative territory, then it becomes a cause of worry.
Negative territory, or if it is very, very low. Suppose per worker income in non-agriculture is increasing 7%, but you find that in agriculture GVA growth is only 2% and number of worker is increasing by 1%. So, then you find that growth rate in agriculture is either nil or very, very low. That then create disparities. That is something which is not considered healthy.
Right. And so, in the past few months, we have seen that there has been a lot of confusion as far as MSP or giving the MSP has been concerned. Farm unions are demanding something else. Government is not able to provide the MSP or not taken any decision yet on that. Even WTO is asking to rationalize the food subsidies or public stockholding limit. How do you, I think there is no better person than you who can just throw light on this whole MSP conundrum. Can you just explain to us what this whole MSP thing is and what is your take on this?
You see, for that we need to understand why MSP were brought, why we started system of MSP and why there is a need to have this kind of system. Under two kind of situation we need price intervention by government. One is that markets are not competitive, markets are exploitative, because of which farmers are not getting, but should be the genuine price for their produce.
Right.
This calls for intervention by government. Second is that even if markets are competitive, in some situation there could be glut and that glut will lead to crash in prices. That may ruin producers. In that kind of situation also you require some sort of intervention that farmers should not go into losses. So, this was the basic consideration for minimum support prices. There are two basic premises for MSP. One is that it should have some profit for the producers, and secondly it should have relevance to what is justified on demand side, but consumers are willing to pay for it. So, we should have a system of MSP keeping these two things into consideration. That is why there is a expert body, Commission on Agriculture Cost and Prices, which look into cost aspect of agriculture, which looks into market situation, what will be the open market price, and based on all those things they come out with the what is the justified price for agriculture commodities. But the concept which we have been using till few years back, we should not forget, it was minimum, that farmer should get at least this price. If market give him higher price, he or she should be availing that kind of things. So, over time some people have developed this kind of feeling as if MSP alone can give them best profit. This is not the situation. In fact, if you look at non-MSP crops in India, they are growing at a much faster rate than growth in MSP crop. Right. So, if there is a demand side factor, if demand favor something, through market farmers should take advantage of that. So, MSP is something like a we say like RBI lender of last resort, that if market does not give a remunerative price, then we must use MSP, but we should not MSP which is very distorting. MSP should not distort market too much. Like if we are a exportable country for some commodity like rice, we export say 30 million ton of rice. If we are keeping MSP which is higher than international price, then you will not be able to sell your produce in international market. Right, if you will give subsidy on freight or something to ensure that export happen, you are subject to challenge in WTO. That is what we faced in case of sugar sector during 2018-19 to 2011-21-22, that our system of prices was much higher than what was the corresponding price of sugar in international market. Right. So, all these factors need to be kept under consideration, and a balance need to be struck through MSP, so that it is remunerative for the producers, but at the same time it does not hurt consumers. Right. We should not forget that more than I did this calculation long back, there may be some change in it. I can say that more than 75% of farmers even today will be buying more food than what they are selling. So, when we are saying that this price policy keep a balance between interest of producer and consumer, it also take care of interest of 75% of farmers who are having 1 hectare of land, 1 acre of land, whose right. marketable surplus is very small, or if they have few bags of marketable surplus, they are buying pulses, they are buying oil seed and other commodities. So, these facts we need to keep in mind.
And so, various farm unions have been asking for 50% profit over the comprehensive cost of production. Do you think that this is something feasible which the government can provide to the farmers?
Again, I would say that if demand side factors support it, then we should give it. But if demand side factor do not support it, then it becomes I would say then it will have very adverse consequences, rather it can have even grave consequences.
Can you see,
I can explain. In one situation, market can absorb a commodity even if there is 60% margin over cost. Okay, like sugar these days, price is very high in international market and domestic market. So, it is in a position to absorb high margin. After 2 years, because prices of most of the commodities are cyclical, or as we have seen 2 years back, that international price of sugar was 18, 20 rupees and we were selling at 30 rupees. In that situation, it may not be possible to dispose commodity in the market at that kind of margin. Much lower margin is justified. So, I would say that what kind of margin should be given, that should be left to expert body. They should look into all the circumstances and then they should arrive at that what kind of margin can be given. But bottom line is that MSP must cover all kind of cost incurred by farmer or imputed value of the cost, and it should leave some margin, positive margin. And what should be that margin? That should be left to expert body, that after looking at situation they just decide. Otherwise, you will start stock will start accumulating. Market clearance will not happen. If you have that price, private sector may not buy more than what they feel they can sell in the market. So, it has lot of consequences, and that is why otherwise which government would not like to meet the demand of the farmers. Farmers are important part of our society, everybody respect them, and I feel that this government is particularly very sensitive to what is a demand of the farmer. So, that is why they are doing their best first to ensure that MSP procurement or MSP implementation is expanded. Like if you look at last 8 years, the procurement has increased from something like 58 million ton to in 21-22 148 million ton.
Right.
Earlier it was only rice wheat, but now coarse grain, millets are being procured, pulses are being procured, oil seeds are being procured, even onion which is not covered at MSP also some quantity is procured. And also now procurement happened in more than 13 states. Few years back it was happening only in 4-5 states. So, what is important in case of MSP is that once you announce it, see to it that it is implemented. So, that is why government came with the 2 schemes. This many farmers they may not be aware of it. One is that government is procuring major commodity rice, wheat, cotton. For other commodities there is a scheme known as PM Asha. Under that PM Asha, all commodities on which there is MSP, states can procure that commodity. And the states can procure up to 40% of the produce.
Right.
And the whatever is the cost of running that system, central government pay that cost within some norms. So, I would say that what is more important in case of MSP is that whatever MSP is announced, that is implemented, that is ensured throughout the country and for all commodity for which it is announced.
And so, does MSP fuel growth?
It again depends upon 2 type of situation. If your yields have not plateaued, MSP will certainly fuel growth. Like if you ensure MSP in Bihar, if you ensure MSP in Jharkhand, if you ensure MSP in eastern UP, where farmers are the yields are still much lower than what is the potential yield. So, you will find that through MSP, especially if MSP is higher than open market price, you are creating incentive for farmer to use more input and increase yield. So, it will bring a supply response. But in some states where already say you are having 4.5 ton per hectare yield of beet, or you have a yield of rice which is already close to plateau, there even if you give higher MSP, it will not have yield response.
Okay. So, where the yield has been plateaued, in which states, if you can just throw light on that?
Again I would say that in case of rice and wheat, you find yield plateau in Punjab, yield plateau in case of Haryana, That's why if you look at the growth rate of crop sector in these two states, because these two crops are dominant crop, the growth rate is less than 0.5% per year, less than 0.5% per year.
Right.
Whereas we have 12 states where growth rate of crop sector is more than 4%.
And which are the states which are doing a phenomenal job as far as agricultural growth is concerned?
Again, if I look at last say 10 year from 11, 12 up to 21, 22, last 5 year again situation may slightly change. The highest growth in crop sector we are having in Madhya Pradesh.
Okay.
The second highest we are having in case of Andhra Pradesh. Then states like even Karnataka, Telangana are also having good growth. Even state like Assam is coming up very well. So as I mentioned that we have as many as 12 big states where growth rate is more than 4%, and that is creditable.
Right.
In agriculture, to have more than 4% growth, to my mind, is highly creditable.
Okay. And so one thing that all economists are having a divergent viewpoint is rural economy. Post-pandemic, people are saying that rural economy is still under stress. Some are saying it's on the path of recovery. Some are saying that it has already recovered. What is your take? Because you have been the one who has been tracking the agricultural sector and how it's panning out in the various states. So what is your take as far as rural economy is concerned?
I would say that people say these kind of things for two reasons. One is it has become fashion with some people to always prove that agriculture and rural economy are under distress. And second is that many people say it based on very limited data. If tractor sale is not up to a mark for 4 or 5 months, they may come out with that kind of conclusion, which may be a temporary phenomena because of some other things, not that distress is happening. Since more than 2/3 population live in a rural area, we need to do everything to ensure that rural area are not under distress. Now, in rural economy, share of agriculture in rural economy is less than 1/3. Right. We do not have exact data after 12, and my paper in 12 showed that agriculture income constituted 35% of total rural income. In the next 10 years, since non-agriculture grows faster than agriculture, my guess is that share of agriculture in rural income would have come down to something like 30%.
Right.
But the 70% comes from industry and services. One fact I want to share with the audience through your channel: the growth of manufacturing sector is much higher in rural India than in urban India, because industry require land. In urban location you do not have land, so industry is going to countryside. Right. They are going to national highways. So you just find that non-agriculture sector in rural area is growing at a fast rate. So one should not, number one, agriculture growth in last 10 years is one of the best. It is 4%. Right. And after 14-15, we did not have single year when GBA agriculture, which is agriculture income, showed negative growth, not even a single year. Right. We have negative growth in case of manufacturing, but not in case of agriculture. So some positive things are happening in agriculture, that its growth rate is very good, its growth rate is stable. And another thing, again through your channel, real prices of agriculture commodities during this 9 years of this government have increased by 27%, real prices. That means even if no increase in physical production, your income will increase by 27%, right. which get added to because physical production is also
right,
growing.
Right, and so basically you have the problem when economists take the proxy indicators like two-wheeler sales, tractor sales to gauge the sense like rural economy is under distress or
if they have a consistent trend over years, only then they should conclude this thing.
Okay.
While looking at sale for 3 months, they should not conclude.
Exactly.
Reason could be that previous year was extraordinarily good. So, compared to this, that sale may come down. That happen to sales of cars and other things even in urban area. So, those fluctuations happen.
Right.
They need to look at long term
Larger
trend.
trend.
Yeah, and in a couple of other variables, not just picking up a
2 or 3
scooter or
indicators.
yeah.
Right. And so GTRI, in one of its reports said that India's agri-export basket is dependent on just 5 commodities including rice and sugar, and this makes the sector vulnerable to fluctuation in global prices. What is your take on that? And do you think that there is need for India to diversify its agricultural exports?
You see, even if 5 commodities account for say 80-90%, it is a good diversification.
Right.
Because those 5 commodities, if I have to mention, at the top you will find that rice, but within rice you have diversification. It is a basmati rice, it is non-basmati rice, and then it is different kind of rice which is exported. Then we have fish. Again, there are different kind of fish, marine fish and inland fish. So, that is the second. Then third is, as you just mentioned, that this sugar cane is there, then meat and meat products are there, then couple of other commodities like many people again may not be aware, they always look at India importing edible oil. We export lot of cakes, oil cakes we export. Sometimes we export maize also when maize is surplus. We also export small quantity of pulses, though we are importing, we are net importer of pulses, but we also export small quantity mainly for diaspora. Like that, this I would say that that there is not a dangerous kind of concentration in composition of our agriculture export basket. And it is already diversifying. Now we are exporting more fruit, we are exporting more vegetable, we are that exporting onion, important player there. So, it is getting diversified and it is quite diversified. Yes, there are 2-3 commodity, they occupy main share, which generally happens in case of
Right. And so one concern as far as agricultural sector is concerned is cold chain infrastructure shortage, and that according to the estimates lead to the losses to the tune of 92,561 crore annually, according to the government data. Do you think that there is a need to sort of making this infrastructure robust, cold storage, and how far are we progressing on that?
No, we need to do a lot in case of post-harvest infrastructure. Last couple of years, some development has happened. Now you go on any national highway, you will find cold storage, you will find warehouses, even cold chains are also there. But much of the investment in these kind of things also comes from what kind of marketing environment we are providing. Like if somebody is having cold chain, that person would like to buy produce from farmer directly, because by the time produce comes to market, then auction happens. Again, you know that maybe 10 hours, maybe 15 hours, maybe when market is closed on Sunday, more than 24 hours, this happens. So, if you have a provision, if state has a provision that any purchaser, any trade, he can buy directly from the farmer. So, those kind of things make big difference to these cold chain. So, that is why we say that we should facilitate entry of private sector into agriculture trade, into agriculture marketing.
Which
so
we
that
have not allowed so far.
It is partially happening across states because APMC is basically state law. So, some states they are doing, some states are doing case by case. So, it is not that it is not happening, it is happening, but it is happening at a slow pace. Yes, if we really want to harness potential of Indian agriculture, you see, you need to look at the kind of diversification which is happening in Indian agriculture. In last 40 years, share of fruit and vegetable in crop sector value doubled twice. It doubled twice. If from 7.5 increased to 15%, from 15% to 31%.
Right.
So, and it is not covered under APMC. In most of the state, even it is exempted from APMC requirement. So, when this kind of diversification is happening, and we know that fruit and vegetable give you 4 to 5 times the income from field crops. So, that is why you asked me which state are doing best. I said MP and Andhra. The secret is that they are diversifying toward high value crops, especially Andhra Pradesh, and they are inviting private sector in a large way. So, if we want to take advantage of this diversification, which hold promise even for breaking the stagnation in growth of crop sector in Punjab and Haryana, the option is to go for diversification toward high value crops, and that is not possible without good infrastructure, that is not possible without engagement with the private sector. So, once that happen, it will make the difference.
And so one last two questions, and one thing that I want to ask you about the India's nutrition puzzle. Since we know that the farm output is rising in India, but that's not being reflected in the nutritional value as told by the international agencies. So how do you decode that?
International agency only when they talk about some indices, they create problem. If you look at the FAO data on percent of population that is undernourished, that came down to less than 14% before COVID. During COVID years, because FAO report data for average of 3 years, so COVID started 20, so 18 to 20 is covered in COVID, 19 to 21, 20 to 22, that COVID year comes there. In COVID year, there is some deterioration not only in India, in all developing country. In all developing country, Brazil, where there was zero hunger, is back into hunger, and there are a couple of things that why this kind of thing is happening. In the case of India, like if you look at per capita production of food, even if I take last 20 years, it has increased by 50%, which is a big increase, which is a sizable increase. But in case of India, I think there are two things. One is that if you have a particular norm, there is a movement toward norms. Many people are close to crossing that norm. Earlier, they were much lower than norm, but now they are very close to norm. So, you will find that in next few years, a large number of people are going to cross that. That is what happened in case of poverty, that people are moving closer to the norm. Earlier, if there was a calorie deficiency of 300, now it came down to 200, then it came down to 100. So, they are getting closer, but they have not yet crossed. That I am just saying about possibility. Second is Indian people, they have some firm belief relating to food and its impact on your physical health, on your mental health, and they consume according to that. I did a paper recently just to demonstrate that how Indians are guided by their specificity, not affordability, that somebody may recommend that that Mr. A should consume 2400 calorie, and Mr. A has 3 lakh rupee income per month, but he is not consuming 2300 rupee, he is consuming just 2000.
Right.
So, I just presented a figure that bottom 1%, 2%, 3% up to 100%. So, you will be surprised that even in the top 1% category, some people, they are not consuming what is recommended that they should be consuming. Right. So, these voluntary choices, these voluntary choices in case of India are very important, and they have been explained by some other anthropologists, particularly French anthropologists. I did these estimates that to what extent this undernourishment in India is voluntary. I estimated that, and nearly 1/3 cases were where they could buy whatever food they want, they had income, food was also available, but they chose not to consume that.
Exactly.
Maybe they went for quality food, they went for some other consideration. So, for these kind of things, we need to take into account India's specificity, preferences of Indian people, and there are many other limitations also of those indicators which are being used. So, what matter is that whether over time this percent of undernourished people is declining. Yes, according to FAO, it declined only during COVID, slight deterioration, but you see government came with a response, free cereals.
And so here I want to ask you one question. So basically you are trying to say that undernourishment in India is voluntary.
No, I do not say entirely. I am saying that some people by choice, and they may be right. The agency which is recommending for them may not be right. That they feel that 1800 kilocalories is okay for them. They need not consume 2200. And people go for fasting, people have some lifestyle, and many people I know, they feel efficient by reasonable eating rather than excess eating and then burning in the gym, etc. Many of them they don't do. So, I do not say that entire number, that 15% which is there, that it is voluntary. There are some people at low level of income, and I presented those kind of data in my papers, that in their case purchasing power is an issue.
Right.
In some cases awareness is an issue. But in some cases it is a voluntary choice.
And so last question I want to ask you, agricultural sector in India is sort of a spine which has been driving the economy not from now but since time immemorial. So from 10 years from now, where do you see the agricultural sector going forward? Or the declining share is like it's going to decline gradually and it's going to fall in the negative territory?
No. At least in the unless climate change and those kind of things go to extreme, I don't see any possibility, not next 10 years, even next 20 years for agriculture growth trajectory becoming negative. We have ways, we are adapting, all those things they are just happening. I failed to mention that we often talk about this agriculture not doing well. Growth rate of India's agriculture GDP in the last 10 years according to World Bank data published in World Development Indicator, it's highest among all major countries in the world. It is higher than even China. We have 4% according to that GDP data of World Bank. China is 3.8 or some percent. And our share in global GDP is rising at a fast rate.
Right.
Now it is 14%. And we right now are the third largest agrarian economy. I think after another 15 or 20 years, you will see we will become the second largest agrarian economy after China only. We will leave behind USA.
Right.
Like few years back, US used to produce more milk than us. Now they are not producing even 60% of the milk which we are producing. So we have some great achievement, but thing is that as I said, that it is fashion with some people to find distress, talk about negativity, not to talk about the positive development which are happening in agriculture.
And so one last thing, IMD in its press release this year said that there are going to be more than normal heat, like temperature in the summers this time, and it's sort of a consequence of the climate change that we are witnessing right now. Are you like, what is your take? Is how this is going to impact the agricultural sector and the output this year? I'm asking you only about this year.
This heat phenomena affect rabi crops more. Generally, so far we have not reached a stage where increase in temperature causes negative effect on productivity of crops in kharif season and monsoon season. Only thing is, if temperature is high, we are required to give more water.
Right.
So, if rainfall is normal, then I do not feel worried
That this is
about
going to
this.
impact the
And as far as Rabi crops are concerned, 2 years back, because of that terminal heat, wheat yield declined. So far, our science, our R&D in agriculture is in a position to counter the adverse impact of climate change, and they will be able to do it up to a point. Not that they can do it in all time to come, a tipping point come somewhere,
Exactly.
but so far they are able to do it, and next year they release that variety which is tolerant to heat. So, this year we are expecting very good yield. So, even if temperature rises there, I think with irrigation we will be able to mitigate impact in summer crops, and we do not have any such prediction for winter season.
And basically, you're trying to say we have not reached to a level where our crop yield is going to be impacted.
Especially
by
of summer crop, or especially of monsoon season.
monsoon
Okay.
season. Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us and speaking to Republic Business. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for having me on your shows. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir.